Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another one, and check this out. I think that's a cool thing to add to the collection, though. I mean, like I said, I showed it in my last video, but this thing was short, two of them, so now I have the box clear full, ready to display on the shelf. I think it's kind of cool to have weird stuff like that instead of just all booster boxes and ETBs and, all that fun stuff. And, it's just interesting to have some, different stuff. But today I want to talk about grading opportunities and pretty much why those are important. Um, you know, with a lot of different cards, like especially vintage, I would say look for any high end level X cards that are in perfect condition because grading them can, if you know for sure they're a 10, it can get you extremely loaded. Also, some like good SIRs, any old arts like Lugias are easy to find in person that are in pretty good condition. So you always want to look for stuff like that. But yeah, so I was checking some of the deals right now. Right now is not a terrible time for deals actually. Like you can get the not saying this is it, but you can get the prismatic evolution version of the UPC for like 210 right now. I was seeing some of them for like 190 on Marketplace, so you can find prismatic UPCs pretty cheap right now. So I mean, honestly, if you guys want them, I would say to probably get them right now because I doubt they're going to be any cheaper. But like, that's just my opinion on it. I would probably try to say pick up some of them. Same with Dustin Rivals. If you see a dip into like the 180 to 200 range, I would say it's a good pickup. And where else are we with this? So it's weird. I see card shops now selling Dustin Rivals for 560 a pack, and you can buy 20 packs, but they won't sell you a booster box. It makes zero sense because it's like they could sell the booster box for 250. Why even break it down in packs? Mainly to prevent the scalpers, but it's like, why not just like sell them at full price, but give deals on other booster boxes? Like they had Twilight Masquerade and Surging Sparks for like 250 for Twilight. They had Surging Sparks for 260. Like, so they're gonna scalp you for booster boxes, but they will sell you single packs to rip open cheap. I don't know. To me, it doesn't make sense. Either way, these card shops are goofy on how they do their shit, but it's whatever. Like I said, I really don't care what they do. I just try to find, and you should too. Just try to find any good deals you can. Anything close to MSRP is really not bad. Even if it's like Dustin Rivals or something like that. God, I wish I could find Evolving in MSRP still, but what can you do? But yeah, so I want to get into my next discussion of like how popular, like the belief of, like chicks just being a pain in the ass are. And, like a lot of people's arguments are, even if you think you find a perfect chick, they literally, like once you marry them, like they can literally just change up completely. And I still see younger men out there like thinking about getting married or getting married, selling part of their Pokemon collection to get married, and I'm like, oh no, bro, because like you're literally selling away your financial dreams just to get married for a chick that will probably leave. Do not end up in this situation where you're selling your collection for a chick. I mean, you really don't want to do that. You'll heavily regret it your entire life. Getting rid of, I couldn't even imagine selling my collection off, and there was a video on this of like how people in the UK can't afford women. And I would say, honestly, everyone can't afford women because, even if you just do a marriage and a ring, like you're still looking at blowing 50 to 100 grand, and that's having like a normal wedding. And, I've never met a dude that says, man, I'm so glad I got married. Oh, thank God. You used to hear it, back in the day when I was like really young. Because, I mean, I'm 30 something now. I don't want to say that my exact age, but, I'm almost in my mid 30s. So I've been around the block for a while. And I've never heard many men ever say, man, I'm so glad I got fucking married. Have you gotten married yet, man? Oh my God, you're really missing out. No, it's, like best case scenario, it's just like, oh well, I got married. You know, it isn't that bad. It's all right. You know, meanwhile, they're like, fuck, I got married. So, my point of this video is just like, don't get fucking married. You know, especially when you're the one on hook paying for everything. Because, like, you will just get wrecked. You know, you'll trade in all your investments to get married and basically be working for nothing. Like, it's really not worth it, you know? Like, because, like, when you break it down, like, let's just say you're an average guy working for, like, I don't know, 40, 50 grand a year, let's say. Most of the time, your average men are lucky to put away, like, 10 grand a year, you know, like most average people. And it's like, you know, they can't afford to just drop 100 grand on a wedding and then pay for all the shit a chick needs. I mean, you're seeing it across the board. I mean, men really just can't afford women, and that's just kind of how it is, you know. Um, yeah, and that's kind of where we're at. It's just, it's not really worth it, you know, not really worth the effort, even though it's just like, fuck, you know, like, isn't that kind of what we're here for? But, you know, it's really not. Like, I guess there's other things to kind of live for, you know, besides the peace leave, but still, you know, it is just so not worth it when you really, you know, like, break it down of like, what am I getting from this? You know, absolutely nothing besides laid, you know? So you really have to like think about these things before you really get into like these really long-term relationships. Because I've heard of so many guys that have just lost everything to long-term relationships. And I mean, some women too that has just wrecked their lives. So just being in long-term relationships altogether is a very dangerous, frustrating thing. How I also seen a guy that had a bunch of money and he let some chick in his life and the cops came looking for her and then he got like arrested too and they took all of his stuff because he let the wrong chick in. So I mean, you know, stupid stuff like that happens all the time. And, you know, you really have to watch out for stuff like that. Where like peace leave can just really ruin shit. And they're really good at doing that. So, you know, like I said, I still see some younger guys, but most people have realized that like dating's hardly even worth it, let alone getting married. You know, like getting married is just absolutely fucking insane. Like I said, no one just wakes up and they're like, oh, thank God, I better get married. You know, I better make sure I put myself on a leash so a chick can take all my shit, you know? So you really just want to like stay away from it altogether, you know, and just kind of like, you know, meet a chick here and there and just leave, you know? And, you know, let them know what you're in for. Fuck it. You know, if they're not into it, fuck it. They're not the one, you know, to mess with. So it's just how it is. But it's just this whole thing of just like where women are just completely special in their own minds and like some dumb group of men like literally feed into that is just mind blowing, you know? And, you know, you have like literally like chicks that are like a 2.5 thinking they're like tens. It's just, it's insanity. And, you know, like, it's just because no one will, like, let them know and be like, no, man, you're not even that good looking or interesting. You know, it's just like a lot of men find, like, the lamest chicks interesting. And I'm like, dude, like, they have, like, no personality. Like, you're literally just thinking that because you're thirsty. You know, at the end of the day, like, it's crazy that it's like that. But I know a lot of people that do that. And it's like, come on, man. You know, like, it's time to wake up and see like really if a chick's actually like worth it or not. I could see it like right away too if one is. And I've only met my entire life. I've met 3 or 4 women that are like truly worth it. You know, like narrowing it down. I think I met 3 out of hundreds of women my entire lifetime. Um, you know, not saying like I banged them all, but like I'm just saying like out of women friends I've had, girlfriends I've had, you know, that it's basically like I've only met like 3 or 4 that I'm like, wow, that person is actually a really good partner. And, you know, that's basically how it is. But like I said, they can change in a heartbeat, you know, and I see so many people that have that happen. They're like, oh man, she was real great until we got married, and then everything went to shit. And it's like that whenever you hang out with them long term, is it always goes to shit no matter what. There's nothing you can really do to prevent that. you know, and you have to be aware of these things, you know, before they get in a position where they can just take all of your assets and take your home and your car and your kids and everything. You know, like it's just it's dangerous. You know, it really is that if you are single out there and like depressed about it, it's probably God's way of just protecting you from getting robbed or like having to like take care of kids that you really don't want, you know, or like and crazy shit like that. So, you know, maybe think you have someone looking out for you at the end of the day. But yeah, like I said, it can always be worse in life, and you know, like that's just how things are. But you know, yeah, it's impossible for most men to afford a woman, dude. Like it just is. You know, like half the people I know that are just like the average people, they cannot afford to pay for woman shit. You know, like I've seen so many men just go broke dating just a basic chick. You know, or like even like an above average chick, like, and they still just kind of go broke because you know, like let's face it, like wages. If you're just working trying to support a chick, it's almost impossible. You know, it really is. Um, you know, I don't know any other way to say it. Even if you're rich, it's like they still can drain the fuck out of you. You know, like it is just, it's just not worth it. And I'm glad to see a lot of men have woke up to this. That like, you know, like myself, like I don't hate women because like obviously there are some that I like, but like man, I will say like 90% of them are just like straight demonic. You know, where they don't want peace. They don't want, you know, to submit or like any type of have any compassion or understanding. It's just, it's not worth it, you know. And if you're out there watching this and, you know, you just got out of a breakup or something like that, you're really not missing out on much, man. You know, or if you're someone out there that really couldn't get women, you know, I'm telling you right now from experience, you're not missing out on much, man. You know, like, you're really not. I mean, you know, just to get laid some, I mean, it's really not worth, you know, ending up in a position where you have to take care of a kid you don't want or like, you know, you lose all your assets, you know, like, especially once you hit 100, 200K, you know, you really don't want to have to take care of a chick, man, because, like, you'll lose it and then have to start back over again, and you'll be so frustrated, you know, that, you know, if you've worked so hard to grind yourself up, and I actually seen a PokeTuber doing this, they're selling, this is what kind of brought me up to this video. He's a younger guy, I'm not going to say his name because this is his own personal stuff, but he said he's selling off his collection to get married, and I'm telling you, he's going to regret it. I mean, I hope he doesn't. I hope things work out for him, but it is just not worth it. I feel so bad whenever I see younger men selling off their assets and their smart investments just for some tang. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's not worth it, man. You know, like, I would never sell off my collection just to go get married. Like, that's like the worst trade off ever. Like, yeah, let's just sell off my investments and get married, you know, that are, let's sell off my investments that are dramatically going up every year and get married and start at zero again. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You know, like with investing, it's like, man, you can't do that. You got to hold your investments long term, be it stocks, crypto, houses. You know, I couldn't imagine selling one of my houses to get married. Like, fuck that. You know, like, it's just, it's not worth it. You know, I don't know any other way to tell people. And, you know, like God forbid, if you go out of a relationship and you're really bummed out about it, man, you got to just keep your head up and look at it as like maybe it was God's way of just telling you, man, you needed to get the hell away from there. You know, that maybe, you know, that chick had a boyfriend that could come kill you or, you know, or something bad could have happened, you know. God, there's so many cases of that, you know, where like you get with some new chick and then their boyfriend, ex-boyfriend finds out and they're like knocking on your door ready to kill you. I mean, you know, one time I was dating this chick and she was like with some badass drug dealer before me, and like she like her dude like tried to like kill me, man. Like and I had to like beat up his henchman and shit. Like it was just bad, you know. So I mean, like, and that's just one of my situations. Like, let alone everything else that I've seen go on, you know. And it's just like I'm telling you right now, if any of you get married to any of these women, my heart feels for you, bro. Like, because you'll be so pissed if you sacrificed a ton of money on a woman. I don't care who you are. If like there's a saying, bros before hoes. And besides the bro part, money before hoes too. you know, like that is another thing. Do not give up your hard-earned money for women. Unless if it's small amounts, but don't give up like tens of thousands of dollars for women. It is not a fair exchange because they can literally just leave your ass. So, like that's just the point of this video. Um, I hope it helps some people that are maybe going through the same things, but just stay away from them, man. Don't become another statistic where they're taking everything you've worked for and now you're just working. And there's so many people in the cycle where they're just working to pay child support, or they're just working to, you know, just to fix everything that they spent on some chick. I see so many couples, man, that like buy houses too, and they literally buy them on a whim just because like it was a couple that just got together, and it's just like, and then like a couple months later they break up, and now they're selling it for like half price, and it's just like you see this happen all the time, and seeing it happen for so many years has been like a repeating message to wake me up personally and be like, wow, I should really stay single, and I really shouldn't think that like love will ever be like super special, or like life changing. It's just having too crazy of expectations, and it's just good to stay that way and focus on, like getting richer, um, having good friends, having good family, people that you care about that aren't necessarily like just sex partners, So that's just where things are, man. I still see a lot of guys out there that like simp for these like douchebag porn stars, and it's like, man, they're like the bottom of the barrel garbage. Like looking at Lily Phillips and her new boyfriend, like she's like, man, he won't like eat me out. And it's like, yeah, bro, because you freaking bang old guys. Like that's so disgusting. I don't know what it is when a chick bangs an old dude, bro. That's just like they're like ruined after that. I don't care what anyone says. Like this shit's so disgusting to me. I mean, it's disgusting at any level, but it's just like, man, it's just extra gross. So that's why I say on this channel, focus on your investments, focus on stacking paper, you know, be wise at all times, and, don't end up in any bad situations. And as a man, just really watch out for yourself, watch out for your finances, watch out for your real freedom, and guard that at all costs. Because trust me, you are not missing out on much. Every time you'll ever get with a chick, it will always end up toxically and just bad. It may start off amazing and incredible, but it always ends bad. So just make sure you're super aware of these things. And, yeah, don't get fucking married. Just do not get married to anyone, period. That is just not worth it, especially getting married. Like, God, I cringe whenever I hear of a man getting married. I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like you want to spend more money on top of the chick making you already spend money on her food or clothes or everything else. Like, you want to spend more money on their crap? Fuck that. Like, you want to spend more money getting married? Get real. So, I hopefully I save some men out there from going through this fucking terrible idea. But you have to step back and look at it as like a business arrangement, because that's what it is. Women look at it as business. It's time for men to look at it as business too. That we're not just in the business for love. We're in the business of them benefiting our lives. But anyway, that's everything we have for this video. I hope it helps some of you out there going through things like this. Maybe you're in your early 20s and you're starting to really wake up around you and see like, wait, if all the women are worthless, all the assets are kind of worthless and overpriced, what's the point of buying into any of it? And you just get to the point where you kind of save your own cash and, watch out for yourself and your own freedom, and, kind of just be chill with being yourself. So the quicker you can do that, the quicker you start making better investments, and you know, like the better off you are. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one though. I really don't want to throw much Pokemon stuff in here. Actually, I already did. About the buying prismatic. But seriously, watch out for yourself, guys. Don't fall in the same traps that pretty much most men fall for. I mean, you guys hear the stories, the testimonies of like good fucking men, dude, getting absolutely shit on by women all the time that don't even do anything wrong, and the court like awards them still everything. I mean, it's just not worth it. And then if you marry them, God, it's just so much harder to get out of that mess. And if you have kids with them, they got you for 18 years. I mean, a lot of musicians were trying to say this back in the day of like how bad it is, but and seeing half the women on here that are porn stars, like how corny and boring they are. Like I find most women generally just boring as fuck and like behind on the world like a lot. Um, it's like seeing them like be like 30 steps behind like the dumbest guy on the planet. So I don't know. I just get really annoyed by it. Anyway, but and you just have to realize the animal of the beast you're dealing with. Like the beast system sucks, but we still got to try to make the best of it. And pray to God, to that you want the world of heaven over this world, and you know what I mean, like that you don't really want anything from this world, and that's kind of where I am, honestly. It's like I just want Jesus, man. Like I really don't want anything I own. I don't really want, you know, any of the women in this world. Like I really just want my soul to go to heaven, man. And like that's really all I care about that's left in this world for me, because like when we die, we can't take any of this with us, and that's just the reality of it. Um, and that's just kind of where I'm at with things. And I know that may sound fucked up coming from someone like me that parties, but that's really how I feel about things. That it's like, honestly, like if there is a creator, they are what is the most important and should be in your life, and then everything else comes after that, And I know that sounds like really mundane advice, but I just feel like that's probably the best advice that I can give people is to, pray, you know, and like let God guide you and let just the world, be second in your life. Because in the Bible they talk about being like of the world or of God, and then you can only make one choice, and it's like, yeah, the world is, like the markets, the owning a house, owning this and that. It's just like, honestly, if I can make the decision right now to trade everything I own, like the entire empire of dirt that I've acquired, if I could trade it all to be guaranteed a ticket into heaven, I would do it right now in a heartbeat. Like if I could trade every box I ever owned and all my assets, and Jesus would come down and let me into heaven and out of this world, I would gladly do it. I would gladly give up everything I own and just to leave this place, And like I said, like, I still like the world, some of the stuff in it, but in reality, I really would just trade everything just to be guaranteed into heaven, man. Because I really think that's what we're here for, is to be our souls be tested to see if we deserve that or not, and just to let everyone know, like, this world just really isn't shit, and you shouldn't get that emotional about it, to care if you have chicks or not, or to care if you have money or not, or anything. That you should really just care about where you go after this, because no matter what, Earth will not last forever, your body will not last forever, but where your soul goes when you die is honestly what will last forever. And I know I get some people in the comments to say, you know, God isn't real or this or that. It's just like, man, I don't know if he is or not, but it's still just like that literally is like the only thing to live for in this world, in my personal opinion. You know, I don't know any other way to put it. But, you know, I do pray a good bit, but it's just like, I never get any reply, and it just makes me so mad. But it's like, man, I just still think that, you know, God is a better thing than anything this world has to offer. And, you know, like, that's just where I stand at it, you know. So, I mean, if you're going through a lot of these things, you're just kind of like meh about life. To just pray every day and hope you just eventually get a reply. Um, and, you know, just try not to get like sucked into how this world is, you know, because it will eventually just tear you to the ground, no matter if you're with a chick or without a chick. So, you know, just realize what's important before it's too late. And you know, that's pretty much everything I have for this video, though. I know that's kind of a powerful message, but you know, I don't know if it's just this world's a test to just show us how shitty things are without God ruling over it. But anymore, I feel like, you know, where people used to like want to live, it's more of just like a now, like, man, we just can't wait till Jesus comes back to just end all the madness and set everything straight again. You know, I don't know. Like, if that's real, I really hope one day it happens and, you know, all the good people are saved, you know. But that's just kind of where we are, man. It's wild times, and, you know, we just live in a really wild world right now, and that's about all there really is to it, you know. That I don't know if like God is just trying to show us that like women are just absolutely garbage and we just got to stay away from them and focus on Him. Um, I don't know. You know, I wish I had all the answers for stuff like this, like these extreme questions of life and existence, but that's what I take away from it. You know, that maybe God's just trying to tell me like, hey, stay away from women, man. You know, focus on me, and you know, you're taken into heaven, and don't worry about the rest of this shit. You know, I don't know. Like, I know it sounds far out there, but there just has to be something more than just this, you know, and that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Um, like I said, you know, I hope this video helps a lot of people. Maybe wake up to the power of Jesus and God and how important they are and how much better they are than this fallen world. But yeah, you know, like I said, I know I'm not a saint. I know I'm not perfect in any way. That you know, I sin on a daily basis, and you know, I'm not perfect by any means, but like I will say that if I was offered the opportunity by God Himself to just dump everything I own and follow God, I would totally do it in a heartbeat, you know? And I feel like any of you should do that too. Um, because like I said, this world is not going to last forever. And, you know, hell, in the next couple of years, it might not even be here. It's really hard to tell, you know? So where your soul goes forever is probably the most important thing. Anyway, that's everything we have for this video, though. I hate to go like preacher mode on you guys and stuff, but it just makes you think, you know, of like what, you know, like what is the point of being here? Like what is the point of existence? And, you know, to definitely question that, and, you know, like, don't dedicate your life to just chasing women and dealing with their shit. But, you know, that's pretty much the best advice that I have personally. But, you know, let me know what you guys come to as your own conclusions. But that's kind of what I take away from it at sometimes. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one, though. We're out.